Good evening. I started doing the bells so that everybody would stop talking and pay attention. And now everybody's quiet. But we greet you tonight in the name of all that is good, all that is holy, and all that is sacred, and in the warm and loving energy of this mission-centric ministry, Spiritual Life Center. And if this is the first time you're with us tonight, or maybe it's been a while since you've been here, we especially want to welcome you because we know that you are not here by accident. We are all here by divine appointment. And we're just so happy to see all of you with us tonight. And I'd like to introduce Day, and she is one of our chaplains, and she's going to lead us in our opening prayer.
So let's start by taking a deep breath and opening our hearts up to the divine, inviting that divine loving spirit, by whatever name you call it, to fill your heart, allowing you to release all that was today, all that was during the last week, allowing us to be present fully in the moment. And we ask that spirits surround us, each and every one of us, and our presenters, and Reverend Janee, knowing that this presentation will bring about the most benevolent experience for each one of us in our each unique divine way. And so with another deep breath, let us give thanks for this presence, and give thanks for our presence, and know that all is well. Amen.
Thank you for the lovely prayer, Jay. The chaplains have a healing circle next door right after this service, so you can walk right out of Janee's meditation into another dimension. So it's going to be like a 12-dimensional evening. Faith in Action participant sign-ups are active, and you can sign up online. If you are electronically challenged, like some people are, we have some iPads out on a table on Sundays, and we can help you. Or if you really are challenged, you can call me up and I'll sign you up. But we have about 17 groups this year. Pat? Oh, there'll be board members at Louisa's desk as well. So, but most people are managed to, what they do is they look at all of the charts and everything, then they go home and sign it up. But we just want to make sure that you don't miss it just because of that electronic thing. So, and that the sign-ups are open and through about midnight on September 30th. And that gives us a week to get ready for how we are, the next part of that, the whole kickoff. And then, of course, has anybody not heard that Don Jose is going to be here? So the Friday night from 7 to p.m. is a Circle of Fire. And then on Saturday, there's a 10 to 4 workshop. And then he's going to speak on Sunday. And then there's, I guess there's not a Sunday service. I thought there was something after the service on Sunday. Shows how much attention I've been paying. So it's going to be a really, really cool weekend with him here kicking off our Faith in Action. It's a wonderful book, and so we're really excited about it this year. And then next week is dances of universal peace. How many people have done the dances? It's really kind of a walking meditation, and she usually has someone with a guitar who sits in the middle, and we sing very simple chants and then go through these different dances, and it's really, really a cool thing. So we hope to see you there with that next week. It occurred to me today that I almost never do an introduction of Reverend Janee, and indeed I didn't get time to get a bio from her, but most of you are here because you know her, and if you don't, you will get to know her through this conversation. She is such a deep teacher, and she's so quiet and calm. I want to get some of that from her. And such a wonderful voice, and so I'm just going to invite you up on the platform, Reverend Janee.
Thank you. Good evening. It's always wonderful to be here with you, and I really want to thank you all for coming out tonight. And I know you all have a lot of stuff going on in your lives, so thanks for adding your energy and your consciousness here tonight. Although it seems a little counterintuitive, I'm going to do a little bit of talking about the silence and how the practice of silence can nourish us, and not just spiritually, but physically and mentally as well. In spirituality and religion, mostly Eastern religions, some Christian traditions, meditation, or taking time in the silence, has been a recommended practice for thousands of years. Jesus spent 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness. And when our minds and our bodies can quiet down and relax, we can hear or feel or see or sense this presence, this silence. And tonight I'm going to use the word silence as a practice, but also it's a practice of sitting in the silence, but also I use the word silence to really define this ground of being, what we're sitting with, this that we are, this presence of God that we are. Silence is. We can't create silence. We can only create sound. And all sound arises from this ground of silence. Silence is. God is. I am. With practice, what we discover is that this silence is what we are, and it's always there. Even in the midst of chaos and noise and confusion, silence, God, is there. It was Lao Tzu, the founder of the Tao tradition, who said, "To the mind that is still, the whole universe surrenders." But in truth, for many of us, our minds are rarely still. We've been conditioned our entire lives to be wound up, to perpetually multitask, to be in some degree of tension. And our attention is totally conditioned to focus on our mind. So excuse me, I'm going to come back to something else before I go there. Because some of us have become so accustomed to this kind of low-level tension that it's become our normal. So when we start a practice like this, it can really seem a little strange being in the silence and surrendering to the silence. It can feel a little bit unnatural and maybe even a little bit unnerving. But whether we remember or not, ease is our natural state, not tension, not anxiety. We are hardwired for harmony. And this tension, this unease is really our signal that we've moved out of harmony, that we've moved into a disconnection we've moved out of oneness. And our remedy to this is silence. And I think that I've shared this before, that when I first came into spirituality some 30 years ago, I would read about the power of silence and the power of meditation. And I would listen to folks speak about it. But sitting in the silence wasn't an easy thing for me. I resisted it for years. And I would hear someone talk about the powerful practice of sitting in the silence and sitting in meditation. And I would say, well, okay, but what else can I do? What else can I do? But over the years, it's become easier. And I have found a real rhythm in the silence. And I've found that what this movement really is in me, when this is really moving, when this is unfolding, when I'm in the flow. What's critical is a committed practice for me. And several months ago, I got the kind of physical, emotional kind of alarm that maybe my practice has slipped a little bit. I'm someone who follows what's happening politically, and based on my perspective and my worldview, it has caused me some discomfort. And saying that, I would also like to say that I totally trust the process, and I really believe what's happening needs to happen. But when I began hearing about these kids being separated at the border from their parents, I didn't do really well with it. I struggled as those stories started to unfold, and I was outraged. And I did all the outward things that I could, which seemed pretty minimal. And then I had to sit with it. And I was just so sad that I cried. And I cried. And all I could do was think of my own grandchildren and what they would be going through if something like that happened to them. But as I cried, I realized how grateful I was to have an open enough and vulnerable enough heart to feel that compassion. And I could really feel compassion for the people who weren't able to feel compassion for these kids. And so I went into the silence. And my initial intent was to bring the kids and the parents into the silence and into my heart. And as I was sitting there, and things started to expand and my heart started to expand, I heard a quote that came to me when I was in ministerial school, and I've used it here a number of times. And that is, your love for God is only as great as the love you have for the person you love the least. Your love for God is only as great as the love you have for the person you love the least. And I realized that as that was coming through, I was being asked to not only hold these children in my heart, but to also hold those that I perceived to be their perpetrators, those that had caused them harm. And so as I began to bring them in and began to include everyone, my heart really did expand, and this love expanded. And I settled in that place of peace, and the struggling let go of me. And there was a huge shift. And I simply asked to be God's channel for love in this life, for everyone. And the love that we are, when it's fully realized, really becomes a blessing for good for everyone. And it's in the silence that this can be realized. I was reminded of the power of practice and the effect that it has on my life. And really kind of going on at the same time, a lot of you know that my mom has dementia. And I spend a lot of time with her. I'm with her a lot. And as a lot of you also know, I found unity through a search for healing. And I was struck the first time I attended a Unity church. I heard Myrtle Fillmore's quote, "You are a child of God, therefore you do not inherit sickness." And it touched me. And it started a trajectory of seeking and healing that has really brought me to where I am today. But as my mom progressed, I was remembering a trip that we made back east when I was young, 19, 20 years old, and we went to visit her grandma, my great-grandma. And I remembered her having the same symptoms then as my mom was having now. And I also remembered that her mom, my grandma, also had this degenerative memory problem before she died. And I found myself wondering if this was also my fate. And when I really looked at it, I didn't feel like it was where I needed to go or that I needed to be there, but I would still occasionally feel that flicker of fear as I saw her decline. Well, I have a good friend whose sister is a therapist, and she shared this study with me that was done on this fairly large group of aging nuns. Have you guys heard about this study? So there was this fairly large number of nuns in this convent, and they were all in their 80s and 90s. They had all progressed to old age. And what was interesting is none of them showed any signs of dementia or Alzheimer's. And so this research group asked if they could study them. And they agreed, and they asked if after they died, if they could examine their brains. And they said, yes, you can do that. And what they found when these nuns began to die and they looked at their brains is that all of them, most all of them, not all of them, but most of them, had the physical signs of dementia and Alzheimer's. They had the plaque, but none of the symptoms. And what they determined was the amount of time that they spent in the silence every day allowed their brains to create new neural pathways so that they weren't affected by the physical conditions. And when I read that, I was like, oh, that's so cool. I'm already prepared for this. My whole life has been preparing for me for this, so that's great. And then I stumbled upon an article that was, the title of it was, Science Says Silence is Vital for Our Brains. And what I found interesting is that they found their information not by studying the effects of silence, but they found it quite by accident, by studying the negative effects of noise on our bodies and our minds. And they found that noise had a powerful effect on our brains, causing elevated levels of stress hormones. And I'm just going to read this really quick because I'm not really great at remembering some of this scientific stuff. So, sound travels to the brain as a react and activate the amygdala, the part of the brain associated with memory and emotion, leading to the release of stress hormones. So living in a consistently noisy environment will cause you to experience extremely high levels of these harmful hormones. They found that the brain recognizes silence and responds powerfully. That a daily practice of silence prompted the development in the hippocampus, the brain region related to the formation of memory involving the senses. And that when you're in an environment with lower levels of sensory input, the brain can recover. And it can recover some of its cognitive abilities. With our digital world and our brains getting less time to switch off, we are constantly processing enormous amounts of information. And research has shown that the constant attention demands of modern life is placing a lot of stress on our prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for making decisions and problem solving. But when we spend time alone in the silence, our brains are able to relax and release that constant focus. Excuse me. And how does silence affect our brains? It helps new brain cells in the hippocampus to grow, and these are responsible for the formation of emotions. It helps to activate the brain and helps the transfer of information from short-term memory to long-term memory. Silence is a natural anti-stress remedy, and it's vital for our brains and just what we need to regenerate these tired brains and bodies. So silence heals. It's what brings our body, mind, and spirit into alignment. But we have to do it. And we have to do it consistently. And so in order to help me with that, I enrolled in August in a 3-month online course that required me to commit daily to the silence. I'm about 6 weeks in, and I've experienced some of what we talked about, but also more of an ease and a flow with life. I'm sleeping better. My intuition is stronger. And in that process, or in that just the strong intuition, it's just really strengthened a deep trust in life itself. But I think sometimes we think it's all bliss and peace, but it's not always bliss and peace in the silence. That's definitely the result, but it's also the ground where unresolved issues arise to be seen and to be healed. I often say that when we take on a commitment to be love, anything unlike love is going to rise up to be seen and to be healed. And in that process, there can be some resistance. I think that sometimes we can have an unrealistic expectation that once we're on the path and we're doing our spiritual work, that everything's going to be good and peaceful and easy, right? It's like, hey, wait. Spirituality's supposed to make me feel good. I don't want to feel the pain. I don't want to feel the grief. I don't want to feel the shame. But that's what it's about, isn't it? And really, I think these are really, it's just stuck emotion. That's all it is. It's just stuck energy. And it's our resistance to them that keeps them there. By turning towards that resistance, by meeting it in this open space that you are, by holding our emotions in the silence and being with them, they're joined with presence and they're transmuted. Energy doesn't go away, it's just transformed. And by holding our emotions in the silence, we are transformed. So I really feel like when we get to the other side, we really are lighter and softer and more in the flow and more in the natural ease of what our life should be. So what I'd like to do tonight is I'd like to take an extended amount of time in the silence. I'd like to do a little, just kind of a guided meditation and to kind of leave us into our heart space and just stay there for about 15 minutes or so. And then I'll bring us kind of out of that heart space. Is there anyone in here that's new to spending time? Are we all like really avid silence people and all is well? Okay. Because I just wanted to mention, if there's anyone that doesn't spend a lot of time in the silence, that our breath is always available to us. What if our mind wanders or things get uncomfortable? We can always just bring our focus back to our breath to bring us back into the moment. So, does anybody have any questions before we take our little dive into the meditation? Okay. And you have the microphone, so that's handy.
It's helping Jan with her cough. When we talk about silence, what do we mean by that? Does it mean you're sitting in a room where there's absolutely no other sound whatsoever? Does it mean that you're just getting quiet and not engaging in activities? So perhaps define silence for us a little bit, please.
So like I was kind of saying earlier, for the way I'm using the word silence tonight, it really is that place of quiet, of where we sit, and hopefully we sit in the quiet. Hopefully there's no sound. But all of us know during our times of meditation, that's not always the case. So really being in the silence is being in that place of your own being, that God within you, and just abiding in that place because that I also call the silence. And that's what I was saying. I'm kind of using that. You know me, I use silence, God, awareness, presence. I've got a million names, and whatever, like Day was saying during the prayer, whatever your comfortable word is for that. But because we say we're sitting in the silence, it's not necessarily that there's no outer noise. But when we're sitting in a room like this and there is a loud noise, our attention is automatically drawn to that noise. And it's the same on the inside. And what's noisy on the inside? Our thoughts. So sometimes for me, it's a bringing my attention to my body, to my heart, to my belly, to my breath. And just doing that, it automatically kind of quiets the mind a little bit. So does that answer that? Was that enough? Okay. Anybody else? Yeah, RJ. We can, yeah. If everybody wants them down, down's good with me. And I'm going to do just a little kind of bring us in, and then I'm going to come down here and sit for about 15 minutes, and then I'll come up when we're ready to come out. So let's all just breathe together. Just settling in to this time of meditation. Breathing in and breathing out. Just find your natural rhythm. Allow your breath to relax your body and to relax your mind. With each breath, feel your body relaxing into your chair and find a comfortable position. Allow your body to settle into the stillness. And for this time of meditation, we commit to remaining still, to not moving our body, resisting the urge to move or to fidget. And this isn't in a rigid way, but allowing your body to rest and relax and be still while remaining alert. As you continue to breathe, breathe deep into your belly. Feel your breath filling your belly and see it rise with every breath. With each breath, relaxing and softening. And as you continue to breathe, bring your attention to your heart, to that beautiful heart space in the center of your chest. And breathe into that heart space. Breathing in and breathing out. settling into this heart space. And feel this heart space expanding with each breath. This heart energy is bigger than your physical heart. It's bigger than your chest. Expanding with each breath. Resting in this space of the heart, you feel a sense of presence. The presence of the heart has a radiance that shines out from the heart like sunbeams radiate from the sun, like the beacons of light from a lighthouse shining forth through the fog. We're going to rest here, abiding in the heart. If you feel any tension or block, just let it be. We aren't trying to change the heart or make anything different. This beautiful, expanded heart space is immense. And it's bigger than the tension, bigger than the block, bigger than the resistance. All of that is happening within the presence of the heart, where we meet that which is divided within us. And when we abide in this heart space, silence calls it all home to oneness. There's a meeting with your deepest self. And so for the next 15 minutes or so, abide in your beautiful heart space and rest there. And listen. Listen with your entire being. from the space of our individual hearts. We have a meeting of the one heart. The one heart of us all. And so as we breathe again and intentionally bring ourselves back into this time and this place, we give grateful thanks for the power of silence, for the power of presence, for the power of God in our lives. And so we give grateful thanks for this community and for the energy created here tonight. For this energy has never been before and will never be the same again. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Amen. So welcome back.
I think maybe a little bit of stretching, move around a little bit, blink your eyelids. Thank you, Janee. That was
Thank you.
absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
Okay. See, I always get the privilege of trying to get back in my body so I can do the rest of the service. How many people are used to doing like a 15-minute meditation like that? How was it for you? Did any of you struggle with it, or was it just nice? Gordon's in the back with 2 thumbs up. So, yeah, we're so used to being bombarded with so much noise and information, and we get uncomfortable. It's like you watch TV shows about people who've come from the city and they go to the country, and it's so quiet they can't stand it. So it's really good practice. So as we come to the love offering part of our service, we know that everything that we give is part of the whole cycle of giving and receiving and coming and going and the ebb and the flow of things. And of course, everything that we have, that we give here supports this program and the other programs. It's Spiritual Life Center. So you take your offering in your hands and say our blessing together. Divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate. Thank you, God.
Thank you, God.
So let's try to stand up. You know, everybody loves that song, and the first part of it is long enough that it's easy to take up the offering with just that part. So I asked them to start the song earlier so we can get to the chorus. And everybody sings along with it. It's very cool. So let us join hands and try to get connected as possible. We can set this here for right now. Okay, everybody take a really deep breath and let it go. And let's say the prayer for protection together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And may the joys of the world go with you. Thank you, Janee. Thank you, everybody.